What's up, Fantasy Football Universe? It is SC Romero. I am joined today by Jesse Moeller and Jeremy Shulman, and we are going to talk about some bounce back players that used to be targeting into the 2024 season right after this. What up, guys? How's it going today?
It's going quite well. Excited to talk about these players that we've kind of been hinting at the last month. Like these are all players we're kind of higher on in consensus, and we hit on a little bit with the Fantasy Pros article and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited to get into it. How you guys doing today?
Yep, feeling good. I am exhausted as hell. It's 9 o'clock over here in Europe, but screw those Europeans. We're talking American football today. Yeah, so
PM, right? 9 o'clock PM. Yeah. You know, just off topic, international games, man. You know, it's great that the football, universe is getting out there into some international games. But did y'all see the Josh Jacobs thing about Brazil, where he's like, they told us, yeah, we can't be wearing green. All right, you're the Green Bay Packers and you're playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't wear green, and then you can't travel. We're gonna have armored vehicles take you to and from the hotel. And you can't get out. And he asked why. He's like, well, because there's gangs and they could honestly kill you. So. All right, NFL, good way looking at the safety for the players there. But let's get into some bounce back players today. Our other co-creator of the Fantasy Football Universe, St Denis at FF Mad Scientist, can't join us, but he did give us his bounce back player, and that is Justin Herbert. Guys, what do you think about Justin Herbert going into the 2024 season?
I think the discount has gotten quite absurd. Like people are just hating on this guy, and I don't understand why. And I get it, like they're gonna pass less, but what you're doing is you're creating a more efficient offense where it's going to be a better offense, similar to kind of like a Lamar Jackson offense. It's not going to be the same thing, but the efficiency is going to be raised even if it's last pass attempts. And Herbert's he's a good athlete too, so he's going to run a little bit, and he might get some more rushing touchdowns because of that this year too. I think that's kind of the undersold aspect of it. But yeah, like Harbaugh and Roman, they know how to script a good NFL offense. Like we've seen it at Roman, they've been efficient every time and time again. It sucks for the overall pass volume. Like he's not going to be QB1, but he could be a top 12 quarterback, no problem. So I think Aaron makes a really good choice because we've done dynasty startups and Herbert's falling to the third round. And I'm like, guys, what's going on here? And even in redraft, he's QB 15. It's like a discount's already priced in. Like he's going to be better than that. So I'm on board with this. Like the more you think about it, the more it just makes sense. Like he's a good quarterback, good situation. It's a floor raiser is the way I look at it. So I'm all aboard with it.
What do you think about it, Jeremy?
I kind of feel the same way. I mean, do we need to remind everybody who's in this backfield? The ghost of Gus Edwards, the ghost of J.K. Dobbins' knees, Kamani Vidal.
There it is.
Yeah. Round pick, whatever he was. And then a whole bunch of other wannabe NFL running backs. Yes, Jim Harbaugh and company want to run the football. Are they going to be able to run the football is the question. And then the other thing that we need to consider a little bit here is also the schedule the Chargers are going to face. Week 1, the Raiders. Week 2, the Panthers. Week 3, the Steelers. Week 4, the Chiefs. They're either going to be in a position to pass the football or they're going to be in a position where they have to pass the football. And let's remember that the Chargers defense is still trying to kind of rebound from whatever it's been the last couple of years. Bosa hasn't been right. So they really need to kind of figure out, is Colston going to be the guy in the middle right away? If that's the case, you got a rookie linebacker running the show. I think this is like a building time for the Chargers. Everything's in flux. And when in doubt, pass the football.
Yeah, I actually like that take, and especially you said they're pass the order, gonna be in position to pass it. I have him just under, I think it was under 4,500 yards. I think he gets there. But he's still an efficient passer. And a video recently came out with Greg Roman and Harbaugh at camp, and them just talking about the brilliance of Justin Herbert. Like this guy just gets it, man. He just knows what to do. You tell him something and he gets it right away, and he knows how to attack. I think that's something that they're going to fall in love with in that IQ. And he has a stronger arm than McCarthy, So the biggest thing I think where a lot of people are down on him isn't really on him. It's the weapons he has, the wide receivers. Who's going to step up? We saw Quentin Johnston have some beautiful plays thrown to him, like on the money from Herbert, and he just dropped the passes. And that's got, him down some rankings as well. Josh Palmer, there. Brendan Rice, Lab McConkey's going to be the big one that people talk about. So it's interesting because I peel people because they have the weapons around them that they're not exciting as they once were. So people are like, oh, we're down on Justin Herbert. Well, don't sleep on the talent and the brilliance of Herbert. You can sleep on the receivers all you want, but understand a quarterback of his caliber is going to get the ball out still. There's still going to be some benefit. You're taking him in third round. Of dynasty startups, this kid's still young, man. He should still be one of your top. I'll give him 7 off the board at the latest. I can argue 5, but he's still a young quarterback, still tons of it. And guess what? If Harborough and Roman don't like him, another team will. There's a lot of teams that need a quarterback. Put Justin Herbert in Las Vegas with Devontae Adams. He's throwing like 6,000 yards just to Adams alone, right? So don't sleep on the wide receivers just because you're not high on them. Justin Herbert's still a great quarterback. But Jeremy, I know you had a quarterback that you liked as well as a bounce back.
Yeah, Geno Smith in 6-point passing leagues last year. He finishes the QB 18. Just not good enough from Geno. He really struggled last year, whether that was the Shane Waldron effect or whatever was going on there. We've talked ad nauseum this offseason about the move from offensive coordinator Shane Waldron to now Ryan Grubb coming in from Washington. That's just going to, likely lead to a more high-powered, high-flying offense. We're thinking a lot of 11 personnel. We saw what Washington was able to do last year in college football and nearly win a championship with that offense. Now you bring it to Seattle, where they're running with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, and that's just going to be fun, combined with the fact that the offensive line is hopefully a bit improved, combined with the pace of play that should be a little bit better than what's been going on with Waldron, and combined with the fact that, Pete Carroll and the run the football old school mentalities are out the door there. I think it's wheels up for them. Geno is going to benefit from having everything that he needs around him, and he's already singing the praises of Ryan Grubb now here in the offseason. So I love Geno to bounce back. I think he's back end QB1 once again this year.
Yeah, and to your point, last year on first down, Geno was first in QBR and 4th in EPA per dropback. Like, the issues really showed up in pass protection on third down. He had the highest pressure rate of any quarterback in the league, and it absolutely destroyed that offense. So they're going to work on fixing it. They're going to involve play action a lot, and that's something Geno's been very good at. And, this is where the Ryan Grubb offense is going to come in. It's going to highlight his skill set. He's just a really good passing quarterback. I think he gets underrated because, he had a good year 2 years ago. Last year, it all kind of worked against them. The offense was in shambles. The line multiple times fell apart. They were missing 2 tackles. They were starting like a 43-year-old Jason Peters on the line at one point. It just was not ideal for that success of the offense. So now they're integrating a new offensive scheme, and I'm excited to see, particularly I know JS and your guy Jeremy, his involvement increase and just be a good quarterback. We just saw stuff come out about him. So they also said that they want to involve everyone on the field to be a weapon, and they have the guys to do that. So it should be a fun year in Seattle. I expect the offense to be a lot better.
And complete opposite of what we said about the Chargers. I mean, why are you sleeping on a guy that, I feel this can be argued as one of the best receiving cores in the league. Mm-hmm. I know there's other ones, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're the best, but I would listen to the argument of why they're the best receiving core in the league. You know what I mean? And you mentioned the 3 receivers, also Noah Fant, man. I love Noah Fant as a tight end, and that's someone that is under the radar for sure, but he could definitely be utilized. I'm in on Geno, but I also think it's because they brought in Sam Howell. And I know a lot of people are out on Sam Howell. Sam Howell had a good fantasy football season last year. Maybe not really on the pros, but a fantasy football season where I think because they brought him in, that elevates Geno Smith to say, look, man, there's competition now. You're our guy, but don't get it twisted. If you slip up, then here you go. We're gonna try to get with Sam Howell as well. But I love what they did with him. They gave him the second where, when he first got signed, he was like, they wrote me off and I didn't write back, right? And I think he still has it written back. The weapons are there for Geno to succeed. So there is really no reason for him to necessarily be sliding down your boards. In Dynasty, I get it. The age plays a factor, right? But for the 2024 season, Geno could have a top 10 season, especially if we see the emergence of Jackson Smith-Njigba, arguably that wide receiver 1 of the class. Then we have Puka come out. But then also in this class, the current class, Jackson Smith-Njigba would be in the top 5 in a lot of people's rankings of this current class as well. So just because Lockett's there, they may find ways to utilize him a lot more. There you go. They're cooking in Seattle. They got something special up there, and man, it's because they have a quarterback like Geno Smith that knows how to get that ball out as well. So I love that pick, and I think that's someone that you can definitely take. You can take him later in the rounds, but he's going to be the guy that, especially in single QB leagues, you can push on the quarterback, 10th round, 11th round. Geno Smith's still there, and you're confident because he could still come out and perform for you week after week.
Yeah, and real quick about Geno too, we talked a little bit about the Los Angeles Chargers defense. This Seattle's defense is in full kind of overhaul mode. They have a lot of good pieces there, but there's a lot of different pieces in town this year. And I know who's it, Jerome Baker. I think the Dolphins they didn't trade, right? The Dolphins.
No, we just signed them. we took them in free
agency, right? Because who's your middle linebacker that's over in Miami now? From last season.
Nice. Oh, it was the guy from, I can't remember his name, the guy from Pittsburgh.
Anyway, it'll come to me in like 30 minutes and I'll shout it out. I'm talking about, but Jerome Baker already dealing with injury, not really sure what's going on, but I think he's missing most of the offseason program as well. So that's not great when your supposed starting middle linebacker is missing time. So I just think, they're going to have to stay in a lot of games as well. And Geno has the weapons to get it done and get it done the big way.
I agree. Now let's talk about some of those weapons. I mean, the wide receivers in general for the quarterbacks. I know you had a wide receiver as well, Jeremy. Who's your wide receiver you want to talk about?
Yeah, this one's a bit chalky, but I still love it, and we got to talk about it. It's Garrett Wilson. Last season finished as the PPR wide receiver 26. He was projected as the wide receiver 9 on Sleeper, and he was taken at ADP on Sleeper as the wide receiver 5 last season. That's the Aaron Rodgers effect. We were all expecting the breakout. Rodgers goes down on play 6 of the season, and he's done for the year. Where did Garrett Wilson finish in points per game? The wide receiver 33, 12.5 points per game. He just got completely nuked by Zach Wilson and whoever else had a pulse that they were throwing out in the field and just, putting behind center there. Was there a Mike White sighting? That was maybe 2 years ago. I think he was in Miami. I don't know who they put on the field. It was like Tommy DeVito light, I think, over there. I don't know if I can name the guys, but it was just an absolute mess for Garrett Wilson, and he still performed. He was still getting the targets. They weren't high quality targets, but he was still out there running the routes right now. And I love that comment, the big Penix energy. Garrett Wilson is going to have that big Penix energy, not because of Michael Penix, but because Aaron Rodgers is back, and Wilson is going to be throwing his Penix all over the field and just cooking fools. It's going to be nonsense, bonkers what he's going to be able to do. He's a mid-level wide receiver 1. I think that's his floor almost. I mean, there's no way that this guy is a wide receiver 2 if Rodgers is healthy all season. So he's a wide receiver 1, lock him in. He's going where he probably should be. I think he's wide receiver 7-ish right about now. Great. Draft the hell out of him. And, this is a guy who could be a dark horse wide receiver 1 when it's all said and done. And we'd be surprised, but no one would say there's a 0 chance that happens.
Yeah, 100%. There's only one wide receiver in the first 2 seasons has over 300 targets. It's Garrett Wilson in NFL history. So that shows you how good he is, even though the situation was similar to Drake London, who everyone would also pumping up for good reason, because he has Kirk Cousins, like a capable quarterback. And this is the thing we talk about. Like, when really good players in a good situation, this is how you get high-end ceiling outcomes. And that's Garrett Wilson. Everyone knows he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Now he has the quarterback who's healthy. Like, it should be not peak Devontae Adams, but he should give you a similar Devontae Adams type season that we saw in years past where he's pushing 18, maybe over 20 points a game. So, yeah, I'm all aboard the Garrett Wilson trade. It's going to be a lot of fun in New York. They have some very good pieces to be excited about.
Yeah.
And even though he's had over 300 targets in the first 2 seasons, it can be argued he hasn't really had his breakout season yet, right? And a lot of times there is that third-year breakout for these wide receivers. I think Garrett Wilson is going to be the definition of that third-year breakout this year because of if Aaron Rodgers is healthy. But the thing is, though, he's showed that he is quarterback-proof. It doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. He's going to put up some numbers. He's gonna be their main target. Again, 147 year 1, 168 year 2 when it comes to targets. He's gonna be their guy regardless. They did bring in Malachi Corley, Mike Williams at wide receivers as well, but those guys aren't in competition as far as the athleticism and the fluidity that Garrett Wilson brings to the table. This guy is quick. He catches everything thrown his way. Aaron Rodgers gonna fall in love with him. And I know Aaron Rodgers, he came out and said, I'm gonna play as long as I still feel I can. You see a lot more players doing that. My body's still telling me I can. I'm gonna go out there and play, right? And this could be that MVP type of season for Rodgers just because he has a wide receiver with youthful insight in Garrett Wilson that he's also going to coach up. He's also going to say, hey, man, if you're doing this, I need you to do that. All these little details that we're not seeing is what's going on. What are they talking about in the locker room? All those things that will play a big impact. I definitely love Garrett Wilson. If someone's sleeping on him and like, man, he didn't do well and they're going to run with Breece Hall, they're going to use that. They brought in Mike Williams. He's going to get touched. Whatever it is, go talk to them and send a trade offer because you should definitely have Garrett Wilson on your team.
Yeah, and those metrics that we love for wide receivers, it was just brutal for Garrett Wilson last year. Yards per route run, number 54th in the league. Yards per target, number 87th in the league. I don't think that that's a reflection of him as much as a reflection of those quality targets or lack of quality targets that he was receiving. They just had to use him a bit closer to the line of scrimmage simply because A, there was no one to stretch the field there, and B, nobody was worried about whoever was stretching the field there because of the quarterback play. So I think those numbers skyrocket up, and he gives us what we were all expecting last year.
100%. I'm on board with it. I love it. I'm really excited to see Garrett Wilson this year. You've been waiting for 2 years. You're finally going to get your chance to pay off, so it's going to be fun.
That's it.
The blow up.
Quick question from Aaron.
I mean, I could draw you a diagram if you really want, Aaron. I don't know if you're going to like it, though.
For every 6 CDs, he's going to take some ayahuasca.
Yeah, he's going to take a lot of ayahuasca this year.
That's why they're going to elevate. They're going to go into a different dimension. We'll know if he's on ayahuasca if he throws the ball and it's just a beautiful art, and you're just seeing Aaron Rodgers just look up like,
right,
just stunned, just seeing it. We'll know when he's on ayahuasca. Jesse, I know you had a wide receiver too. Who's your guy?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep pounding the table for Chris Godwin. Like we've talked about this at nauseum the past few weeks. Like he's going to be a slot wide receiver, and that's what he's been his best at on all the years. Last year he struggled; it dropped down to the lowest it's been. It was like a 35% slot rate. His points per game crumbled. Like he just is not an outside wide receiver. Certain guys can't play outside. Tampa didn't really have another outside wide receiver beside Mike Evans, so they kind of forced Godwin into that role. What they have this year is they have Trey Coleman. They're trying to put him into like a stretch Z, and then they have Jalen McMillan, who they think they could play the flanker role. What that does is that opens up Chris Godwin to be the slot wide receiver he's always been, and when he's been, his points per game has skyrocketed. Like we've seen his points per game over the last few years. He's been a much better player, so I'm fully aboard him. And like his yards per route run was 2.7 out of the slot, which is like a top 10 number. His target rate was 27%. That's top 15 in the NFL. So like those numbers tell you when he's in the slot, he's a good wide receiver, and he's going to get all the easy looks from Baker Mayfield because Mike Evans is a special outside wide receiver. Godwin can't do that. Like that's why Baker trusts him so much going outside because it's Mike Evans. It's a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver. The inside middle of the field, like that's Chris Godwin's area of the field where he dominates in with zone. So I'm much looking forward to a bounce back for Chris Godwin because if you're looking at ADP, he's well below the list of players I'm going to talking about. He's fallen well below. I was trying to find him, and I'm like, where is Chris Godwin? He's going in like the 40s, and I'm like, that's wide receiver ADP. It's just actually it's wide receiver 37. So you're telling me he's not going to beat the ADP? Like he's going to absolutely smash that ADP. Even last year, his points per game was above wide receiver 37. So that was his lowest he's been since a rookie, and we're drafting him below his lowest he's ever had. So based on ADP at cost, like I love Chris Godwin. I think he was absolutely smashed. You get him in the middle rounds, like round 5, round 6, and then you lock him into your wide receiver 3. Like that's free, easy money, specifically in PPR league. So I'm all aboard Chris Godwin at that cost.
Yeah. And currently ADP right now on Sleeper has him at the back end of the 8th round. Chris Godwin,
here, folks.
Wide receiver 43, right after Xavier Legette. What are we doing? I realize some of this is probably dynasty related, right? You might want a younger guy. Chris Godwin, he's going to be in Tampa for at least this year. If he moves on next year, great. All right. If he sticks around and Mike Evans is reduced or toast or retires or whatever, great. I mean, Chris Godwin's in a great situation for years to come. So he shouldn't be that low in dynasty. And in redraft, he's moving to the slot. It's already confirmed. Like that guy's going to get peppered with targets, especially because they want to take the load off of Rashad White. Kate Otten, I think, is good enough. But I really kind of like these guys in fantasy who are good enough to command some kind of coverage, but not good enough to steal targets from the other guys. And I think Cade Otton is exactly that type of guy. You don't necessarily want him on your fantasy team, but you like him out there because he can run a couple of routes, he'll command a bit of coverage, and that leaves the other guys, especially Chris Godwin, to see a lot more single coverage and the defense to kind of shy away from doubling guys like him, especially when you got to deal with Mike Evans on the outside.
Yeah, good luck defenses.
You said Legette's going ahead of Godwin?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sleeper ADP. Godwin is between Xavier Legette and Calvin Ridley.
What are we doing?
So
what's going on here?
Ridley,
that's absurd.
Ridley, I'm not too mad at. I think, hopefully if Levis has the arm that we think he does, Ridley can have a good year. But Legette, so we're saying last year Godwin finished as PPR full point, ranked 29, wide receiver 29. Year before, wide receiver 19. Year before, wide receiver 16. Year before, wide receiver 31. Year before, wide receiver 2. Mm-hmm. So taking Legette, you're saying that in 2024 he's going to be a top 30 wide receiver in year one.
Yeah.
I like Legette, but it seems like when they drafted him, people just forgot they got Deontay Johnson. I just don't understand where Legette's there, but Deontay Johnson is a demander of targets. He wants the targets, and they gave it to him because he's so efficient just running underneath routes and running some quick slant routes and getting the ball out from the quarterback quickly. Bryce Young, that's something they're going to need to do. They can't let him sit in that pocket. The offensive line has got some new pieces in it, but yet they need to just be able to get the ball efficiently to make sure they move the ball down the field. So I don't understand why you're taking Legette ahead of Godwin. I hope you're in my drafts because I'm definitely gonna smash Godwin over Legette if you're doing that.
Right.
So especially 130 targets, 142 targets, 128 targets just the past 3 seasons. Like, what are y'all doing here? I don't get it.
Right.
My question is though, Godwin, you brought up all the slot information. Are you taking him or Christian Kirk? Because I think Christian Kirk is going to see more slot targets as well, and that's where he shines also. So to me, those are the wide receiver battle there as far as both of them find more success in that slot, and both of them are likely to see more slot opportunities this year than what they saw last year.
Yeah, I like targeting the slot wide receivers in that range. I actually like Kirk. I think he's a good bounce back candidate because he dealt with injuries last year. The one thing I do like a lot is Brian Thomas, and I think he actually elevates that offense because he's playing the role they wanted Ridley to play. It failed. So I'm more bullish on Brian Thomas, and he's going well below these guys. So I don't mind hammering Brian Thomas late and taking a dart on him because I think towards the end of the season he could possibly be the wide receiver one of that offense. I think with Godwin, I just think he's a better player than Kirk, and I think he has a higher ceiling, which we've seen over the course of his career. So I know Mike Evans is there, but there's really no target competition outside of Mike Evans, unless you're a big Cade Otton fan or anything like that. And I saw him play at UW. I know Cade Otton, he's not a targeter. So I think the path to targets is just a little bit easier for Godwin. So, and I just think he's a better overall player. But yeah, I don't mind Kirk in that range too. I think he's a good pick as well. I think both are just kind of PPR machines.
Another guy going who's a slot receiver, and we'll see. But at least he kind of falls in that range is Jaden Reed. So what are we thinking about Jaden Reed or either of those guys? You want Reed or Godwin or even Kirk?
I'm going Reed. I just think he's gonna be the one for the team. For the other two, I think it's gonna be Evans, and I think Thomas will end up being the one. So I think there's gonna be more opportunity for him. Now I like their positions of going to that slot, but I think just Jordan Love and Jaden Reed, what they showed last year, we're just gonna see that elevate even more. If you go them or Christian Watson, I'll take either of them over that. But Reed, I just think this is a breakout season for Reed with Jordan Love there. So I would take him. I think he could finish in the top 20 this year as far as wide receivers.
Definitely. So I think somebody in the Packers offense will. My whole thing is if Christian Watson stays healthy, I think he's the best wide receiver on the roster. It's just injuries have been just disaster for that guy. So I think Reed more than likely finishes higher than him, but if Watson stays higher, I wouldn't be shocked to see him be the wide receiver that one of the offense because Romeo Doubs is I know people like him, but he's just a dude. He doesn't elevate the offense at all. And then the dart throw to Dontavian Wicks. I like throwing a super late dart on Dontavian Wicks because we've seen the add data on him and how good he is. They nailed that draft last year. With the team the Packers put together, it was all senior week guys, and it was well done. So yeah, that's the nice thing about the Packers is they're all dirt cheap, they're all good. So it's gonna be fun to see who steps forward. It could be Reed, could be Watson, it could be one of those guys.
For sure. Now, one of my guys is, a running back. And like you said earlier, we've been smashing the table on all these guys that we're talking about. My guy's Najee Harris. A lot of people are saying, he lost his juice. There's Jalen Warren. He seems more explosive, yada, yada, yada. You hear it all. What are we doing? Najee Harris has not ran for under 1,000 yards since he's been in the league. He just got a new offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith, who loves to pound the rock. We saw Bijan Robinson get a top 10 finish in his rookie season. Najee Harris is going to be the guy. They didn't bring anyone in to stretch the field. They brought people in to play closer to the chest. They want to elevate Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to just, throwing short, intermediate passes. Get it. George Pickens will be a good deep threat. Najee Harris, let's not forget. Let me pull it up real quick. Year one, he had 90 targets, I think it was.
Some sort of amount of targets, yeah. I don't have the exact number, but yeah, it was a lot.
94 targets, caught 74 receptions in year one. He went down year after that because that was 53 targets, then 38. They just weren't using him that right way. And I think we're going to see that go again, and they're going to start using him in the passing game. They're going to run the rock with him. This is also a contract year for him. So, pure Arthur Smith, run him to the core center of the earth. Make sure he's just pounding the rock. And then guess what? That second year contract, all right, let another team pick it up. But I think this is a big year for him, and we're going to see him get past 1,200 yards. He hit 1,200 his rookie season. I think we're going to see that again. Najee has not seen, I think I wrote it up, has not had under 200. He averages 278 touches per season. We're going to see that again. He is the guy going at RB 23, 25, depending where you look. He's going to be a top 10 running back this season. What do y'all think about him?
I think at top 10, spicy for him, just because like Warren's going to carve out a significant role in the offense. We saw it last year. And the one thing I worry about, it was like Warren's just a better pass catcher. Like that's why he gets the targets now since he's been in there. So I do worry about his ceiling, but I like both those guys at cost. Like I think they're solid floor plays with a little bit more added on where they can be flex. And if they hit right on touchdowns, I think it'd be RB2s for you for sure. So if you like Warren and Najee and you want to take both of them, like I'm fully on board with that. But yeah, like at their costs, like yeah, you're getting a good player. So I'm all board on it.
Yeah. And I saw you said that on Reddit, SC, that they're going to run him into the core of the earth. Like 100%. Najee Harris is just going to get the ball as much as he can handle it. This to me is like a Zeke Pollard situation from a couple of years ago where Pollard came in and he was the highly efficient guy. He did get the high quality touches, but Najee has never gotten those high quality touches. He's running straight into the line, and that's fine because he's giving you about 1,100 yards, and he's going to approach that double-digit touchdown situation with probably 30 receptions on top of it. That's great. Given the value and where he's going right now, I'm scooping up all the Najee, and he's dirt cheap in Dynasty for trade value as well. But you also look at what the Steelers did this offseason. What did they do? They drafted Troy Fontenot in the first round. They drafted Zach Frazier in the second round. They took a backup, Mason McCormick, in the fourth round. They brought over Isaac Samalu from Philadelphia. These guys have totally revamped their offensive line in one offseason, and Arthur Smith is in town, so it's no surprise that they've done this. All they did to add offensive weapons in the receiving game is ship away Deontay Johnson and add Roman Wilson, who's going to probably take a while to get up to speed. He's a good receiver. There's no hate there. But upgrading your quarterback room happened, but it happened with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And these guys are not the epitome of like passing game volume anymore. I think Russ bounces back here, but we know Smith wants to run the rock. They're going to do it with both of these guys. Najee, Jalen, give me both. But yeah, Najee, I want the goal line guys. In these situations where it's a committee and it's about 50-50, I want the guys who are going to catch some passes, who are going to get the rock on first and second down, and are going to be the goal line guys. And I think that's Najee. The offense is improved. I'm all in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's ridiculous if you're like, oh yeah, what'd you say, round 8 earlier? Like that just doesn't make sense. He should be one of your top running backs off the board. I feel like just with again the new offensive coordinator, I feel some people don't look at that, like the new schemes that some players get, because that does matter. It changes, and that's gonna benefit your running back like Najee there as well. Jesse, I know you had a tight end to talk about as well.
Yeah, let's talk about Kyle Pitts. I know everyone's like, oh, we're doing it again. You're goddamn right. We're doing it again. He's got a quarterback. The interesting thing with Pitts is he's not your prototypical tight end. I know we're talking about this yesterday, where like Zach Ertz is going to basically help Sanat like grow as a player, so it's likely going to be blocked for a little bit. The thing with Kyle Pitts, he's never had that player. He had Jonnu Smith last year, but like they're kind of different players. Jonnu's more guy underneath. Kyle Pitts is a downfield. He's legit like a wide receiver who plays tight end. So I think it's very interesting the way we look at him is he's going to be a little bit more boom bust, but you're telling me he's going to have Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. That's all I need to know. The guy is finally healthy. If you watch the tape last year, he could only turn one way because of his knee, which is probably our fault for like believing the hype was a little bit better than it was. He dealt with it last year, so he could only really turn left. He couldn't really turn right, and you saw a lot of how his routes were down that. Now that he's healthy, he's going to more look like he did his rookie year, where it's the player that was truly explosive to breaking on it. So yeah, I'm all aboard. And like at cost, like it's so cheap. Why is he significantly like cheaper than these other tight ends? I get it. Like people love Laporta, but if we're looking at costs, I'm like, dude, like what's the odds that Laporta finishes much higher than Kyle Pitts? I don't think it's that much different. So if we're looking at Kyle Pitts, tight end 6 at pick 63. Would I rather spend that or would I rather spend pick 32 on Laporta? I'm spending pick 63 on Kyle Pitts. Like I'd much rather do that. Same value, and then I can attack other positions, and then I get Kyle Pitts, who I believe is one of the dark horse tight end ones this year. So if you can give me Kyle Pitts in that range, like I'll just smash it all day because good quarterback, like kind of with Garrett Wilson having a good quarterback, it's the same thing. We want wide receivers or tight ends attached to good quarterbacks and good offenses. That's what Kirk Cousins does for this offense. So I'm all aboard all the Atlanta options, but particularly Kyle Pitts. He goes well below Drake London, and I just don't understand why.
And with Pitts, you brought up Laporta. There's a world where Pitts gets the most targets. Not saying it's going to happen, but there's a world where Pitts gets the most targets in Atlanta. That's not happening with Laporta. I mean, Amon-Ra, there's no way he's going to give away more targets than Amon-Ra. There is a world where Pitts gets more targets than Drake London. I know people are heavy on Drake London, but we saw what the connection was with, Hawkinson and Kirk Cousins. He does like his tight ends, and even what he said in the interview where he was like, he asked what he wanted from me, or Pitts and stuff, and he's like, I just want you to give me the ball. That's all I want. Just throw the ball to me. That's don't give me a new car. Don't go give me, a new house. Just give me the ball. That's all I want, And I think we talk about the generational, right? The Brock Bowers that just came out. When Pitts came out, he was originally the generational talent of the tight end group, and then he had a bad season. Now people are like, oh, it's Bowers. Don't sleep on Pitts, man. He could do what Brock Bowers does as well, and he can actually do it pretty well. His wingspan is phenomenal. He has a great catch radius. He has some great ability to just cut and maneuver around. He can be a tight end that can definitely be the tight end 1 overall this season. Jeremy, what do you think about him?
Yeah, Kyle Pitts is an absolute monster. Last season, 90 targets, just 53 receptions, 667 yards, and 3 TDs. This is like, we want this out of most of our tight ends. And for this season, we're like, oh, it's a down year for Kyle Pitts. He's never going to do what he did. That's because when he's a rookie, it's 1,000 yards. Like, we know that this is in the range of outcome for Kyle Pitts to be the Sam Laporta this year. He can be the tight end 1. And if you think about Sam Laporta, you were mentioning Amon-Ra. Yeah, he's soaking up the targets. We're also getting J-Mo hype, which, I love it. So long, right? But if nothing else happens for J-Mo in fantasy, we know in reality he's going to soak up some targets. You got Jahmyr Gibbs back there as well. So it's a similar situation for Pitts, except there's no secondary receiver. Do we think that Darnell Mooney can command targets? Kirk Cousins' guy that he brought in, stop it. There's 2 guys who are commanding targets in this passing game outside of Bijan Robinson, who's the next Christian McCaffrey find. But Kirk Cousins has got to throw his 30 touchdown passes a year somewhere, right? And so if we're saying give Drake London 15, I love it. Give Bijan 5. We got another 10 available for Kyle Pitts. I mean, he's going to absolutely smash, hyper-targeted, one of only 2 competent red zone targets, in my opinion, in Atlanta with Drake London. So, they're both going to eat. And, that offensive line is going to keep Kirk upright, and he's going to throw it to these 3 guys and really nobody else, and especially in the red zone.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing with Pitts is his usage in particular. Let all tight ends in air yard share. Let all tight ends in air yards. Let tight ends in his average target distance and deep targets. So, that tells you how he is used and how he's been used his entire career. Like, he's pushing well over 10 yards of pass attempt to reception. Like, that's just how teams use it because he does things other tight ends can't do because he's 6'6", like 250 basically, and he runs a 4.5 40. Like, this guy's a freak of all freaks. So I don't want to say he's like Megatron at tight end position, but he's as close as you're going to get fighting that player. So like sometimes you just got to bet on talent situation improving, and I'm all aboard that. They should pass more than 30 times a game. I think that's the biggest thing. They were bottom 5 passes last year. So
yeah, and you said he led in air yards. He also led in unrealized air yards last season at the position. So like, just get this guy catchable targets, please. He's going to be awesome.
37 catchable targets. That's awful.
On top of that, too, you know, he's definitely got to elevate. You brought up the wide receiver, too. Well, he's lucky they got rid of Matt Collins because that was easily the guy that was going to take away the targets from him, right? Yeah. So he's no longer there now. So good job, Kyle Pitts. This is your time now, man. No more Matt Collins on your team. So you're good. No, that great episode, guys. Y'all have any last minute things, any player that we didn't speak on that you just want to highlight real quick?
Yeah, Derrick Henry. What the hell are we doing? He's going like RB17, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna highlight something that Ian Hart has put out, which makes so much sense. So Derrick Henry, the last 4 years, he's been 2nd in yards after contact, 9th in yards after contact, 4th in yards after contact. Last year he was 8th in yards after contact. The Titans last year were 30th in yards before contact. The Ravens were 1st in the NFL the last 4 years at 1.8 yards before contact. So what you're doing is you're putting one of the best running backs we've seen in this generation. Still, I get he's old. Behind a good offensive line and like the regression to what we've seen before last year, it's Derrick Henry season. Like I'm all aboard RB17. You're getting a locked in RB1 who's could go 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns easy in that Ravens offense. So yeah, I'm all aboard Derrick Henry. Fire him up at that cost.
Absolutely. 100% in on Derrick Henry. And the other guy I'm going to pound the table for relentlessly until the table breaks is Zacchaeus Malik Moss. Zach Moss in Cincinnati. What are we doing? RB 33.5 PPR, going ahead of Chase Brown even, but still RB 33. This offense is elite. What are we doing fading the running back who's going to get the goal line, the only running back in the backfield that can pass protect for Joe Burrow, who we're concerned about? We need to protect the franchise, right? Do you think it's going to be Chase Brown trusted back there, or do you think they brought Zach Moss in for a purpose? He's going to get early down work. He's going to get passing game work. He's going to get goal line work. All right. Chase Brown's going to eat in, no doubt, but this is an elite offense, and Zach Moss is the 1A, and he's going off the board as RB 33.5 PPR. That is silly. He's absolutely going to bounce back because he's going to be featured.
Yeah, I think it highlights his shotgun usage, which I want to talk about for a second. So per fantasy points data, Mass averaged 5.2 yards per carry out of shotgun at 11 personnel. The Bengals ran that personnel the most in the NFL. And they were not good with Joe Mixon. That's kind of why they moved on from him, because he just wasn't efficient. So what you're doing is you're getting a guy who's really good in shotgun personnel 11, and you're putting him into what the Bengals love to run. So like I'm excited for Zach Moss on offense. I know we love Chase Brown, but give me Zach Moss.
Bro, they might have more of a spread offense. So you might have more players playing outside to give Zach Moss that open opportunity in the middle as well, just to eat. And he doesn't, I know yards per carry matters and stuff like that, but he just needs to get the yards, right? It doesn't matter how many touches he gets or how many minimum, but he just needs to get in. As you mentioned, that goal line work. I mean, we could see a 10, 12 plus touchdown season from him, and not necessarily the yards that follow, but hey, in more fantasy leagues than not, a rushing touchdown, 6 points. So you want that, right? So I think that's something where you can't get it from him. And I love both those picks, especially Derrick Henry too. Until the wheels fall off, he's one of those guys. Until he tells me otherwise, you're drafting. I don't care if he's 40 years old. Until he tells me he can't do it, I'm gonna keep drafting him. So this season, let's hope it doesn't happen like that. But I mean, this is it. I mean, he's going the best offense he's been a part of since he's been in the league. And now he's arguably with the best dual threat quarterback in the league right now, ever, honestly. And they're gonna go out there and eat. The best 1-2 punch in the league right now is Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. So you have to take him where you can. And if people are worried about dynasty, go buy him if you're in a competing team, because you could definitely get him probably for a second. I don't think you don't trade the first from me. You can go out there and get second, and I would do that if you're competing. So
I think so too. That's a great call.
Well, amazing, guys. Great show here. I am SC Romero at the PPR Show on X. Follow Jesse Moeller to my right at JMoeller05. Jeremy Solman at FF_Rebel. Our other guy, Aaron St Denis at FF Mad Scientist. And follow the Fantasy Football Universe at the FF Universe. Comment, like, subscribe. We're doing some giveaways coming up this summer. We have mock drafts going on. A lot of stuff. Look at our site. Until next time, take it easy.